In Iran, the presidency will be decided in a runoff election on July 5th between candidates Masoud Pezeshkian and Said Jalili. In Mauritania, citizens go to the polls to elect the nation's new president. Nearly 1.9 million are registered to vote. And in Bolivia, the anti-corruption courtroom ordered preventive detention for 3 former military chiefs accused of participating in Wednesday's attempted coup d'etat. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSur studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Iran, the presidency will be deciding a runoff election on July 5th between candidates Masoud Pezeshkian and Said Jalili. According to the Interior Minister's Electoral Committee, former Health Minister Pezeshkian received more than 10 million votes ahead of Said Jalili, who obtained over 9 million votes. On Friday, more than 61 million people were called to vote, and some 154 media in 31 countries were present for the electoral process. The early elections took place 40 days after the death of President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash. In Mauritania, citizens go to the polls this Saturday to elect the nation's new president. The polling stations open at 7 o'clock in the morning local time to receive the nearly 1.9 million citizens called to vote in this day. The citizens will have to choose their new president from among 7 candidates, including the current president Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, who is seeking a second term. Ghazouani, a former soldier, has promised to accelerate investments to support a commodities boom and more economic growth, with many living in poverty despite Mauritania's fossil fuel and mineral wealth. The results are expected to be announced in the next few days. If no candidate manages to obtain at least 50% of the votes, a runoff election will be held on July 14th. In France, the electoral silence is in force prior to the first round of the early parliamentary elections to be held on Sunday, June 30th. More than 49 million French people are called to exercise their right to vote 3 weeks after the European elections, in which the far-right party National Grouping obtained the majority of the votes. The 3 main political forces in France are looking to obtain at least 289 of the 577 seats in parliament to obtain the absolute majority in the assembly and legislate without major political impediments. France holds legislative elections after President Emmanuel Macron dissolved the National Assembly on June 9th and will call for early elections under the argument of putting the way forward in the hands of the people. In the United States, the first presidential debate of 2024 between Joe Biden and Donald Trump took place on Thursday in the city of Atlanta. For the first time, a sitting president and a former convicted president faced off in front of millions of viewers in an early discussion ahead of the national conventions of the Democratic and Republican parties. A third candidate was vetoed. Independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did not meet the threshold required by the organizers to occupy the podium. Biden and Trump came to the debate with a tie in the polls at the national level, but with the Republican ahead in most of the states that will be key in the November elections. The presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, during the electoral debate with his opponent Donald Trump, stated that the U.S. economy collapsed amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again.
For his part, the presidential candidate for the Republican Party, Donald Trump, affirmed that the country's economic level was the highest before the COVID-19 pandemic and blamed the Biden administration for the increase in inflation.
We had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSur English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. In Bolivia, the anti-corruption courtroom ordered preventive detention for 3 former chiefs of the armed forces accused of participating in the attempted coup d'etat of last Wednesday, June 26. The Court of Anti-Corruption and Violence Against Women of Bolivia was in charge of the Procedural Act, in which the former military members were judged for the crimes of terrorism and armed uprising. The indicted are the former commander of the Army, Juan José Zúñiga, and the former commanders of the Navy and the Mechanized Division, Viacha, Juan Arnés, and Edisol Irajola. The preventive detention will be implemented for 6 months in the maximum security prison of Chonchocoro in La Paz. The government of Bolivia announces 21 new arrests of military personnel involved in the attempted coup against President Luis Arce. The Minister of Government, Eduardo del Castillo, informed during a press conference the arrest of General Marcelo Segarra, former chief of the Air Force, and other members of the armed forces involved in the failed coup attempt on Wednesday against the president. At the same time, the executive pointed out that those arrested are responsible for the siege of the presidential headquarters with troops and tanks. In this context, TeleSur correspondent in La Paz, Freddy Morales, informed in his X account that the Bolivian justice ordered 6 months of preventive detention in Chonchocoro prison for 3 military commanders: Juan José Zúñiga's former Army commander, Juan Arnés, former Navy commander, Edisol Irajola, and Mechanized Division of Viacha for attempted coup d'etat. During an interview with TeleSur, the Bolivian Minister of the Presidency, Maria Elena Prada, stressed the possible link between Zúñiga and the government of the United States in the coup attempt.
Yo no creo en coincidencias.
I really don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences with respect to what is happening to us. I have been pointed out to the media in many national and international interviews that some time ago, the head of the Southern Command of the United States made some open public statements. That you can find it on internet regarding the strategic interests of the United States, and he referred to what has become to be known as the lithium triangle in our southern region of our great homeland. He talked about the lithium triangle, where Bolivia plays a very significant role in terms of lithium reserves, together with Chile, Argentina, and in relation also to other natural resources.
In another part of our interview, the high Bolivian official thanked our multi-platform TeleSur for their decisive role at the service of the people and to all fraternal governments and peoples of our great homeland for their solidarity.
To send my greetings to TeleSur and warmth regard to our comrade Patricia, who I always remember with great affection. Our gratitude to President Maduro and his minister for the immediate solidarity we have received from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. A great revolutionary greetings to the Venezuelan people, to the courageous Venezuelan people, and also to all the governments of our region, of our great homeland, our commitment America, for where we have received an immediate solidarity and who has shown its readiness to all what can be done together with our people. And that is a very decisive solidarity at this time. A big greeting to the entire team of TeleSur that undoubtedly plays a decisive role in favor of information at the service of the people and the truth.
In Venezuela, the head of the Venezuela Nuestra campaign command, Jorge Rodriguez, accused the Argentinian embassy in Caracas of hatching a plan to boycott the presidential elections of July 28th. During a press conference held on Friday, Rodriguez said he had the evidence supporting his accusations and that he will make them available to the international observers accredited to the presidential elections in July. The Venezuelan deputy pointed out that the representatives of the Argentine government were the same that were involved in terrorist actions to destroy the Angostura Bridge that links the states of Bolívar and Anzoátegui.
All those groups of motorized vehicles that are going to generate violence on July the 28th, and that of course are going to be neutralized not only by the state but also by the forces of peace, which means that millions of Venezuelans will go out to vote for peace. for stability, for life, and for future are being organized and coordinated from the Embassy of the Argentine Republic, violating all the norms and the principles of non-interference in the affairs of the host state. It is an aberration that acts of violence be planned from an embassy. I have no doubt that the Venezuelan Foreign Ministry has already taken action on the matter and is communicating with the diplomatic representatives of the Argentine Republic.
Also in Venezuela, a delegation of Chinese diplomats held talks with President Nicolas Maduro and the foreign minister at the Miraflores Palace. The Chinese delegation includes the ambassador of the Asian nation to Venezuela, Lan Hu, and the attaché, Xion Chan. The head of state pointed out that diplomatic relations between both countries are increasingly strengthened in brotherhood and fraternity. It is a sincere alliance for the construction of a new world of peace and more humanity. The Venezuelan-China High-Level Mixed Commission functions as a mechanism for political dialogue and bilateral cooperation, allowing oil and energy agreements up to the airspace field. In this regard, President Maduro received a high-level delegation from the People's Republic of China, headed by the Special Representative of the Government of the Asian Nation for Latin American Affairs, Hu Xiaoqing. The event was also attended by the Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, Foreign Minister Ivan Hill, and the first combatant Celia Flores. Later on, they participated in a political cultural act to remember the event. Caracas and Beijing have a strategic and unbreakable partnership signed in 2023 by President Nicolas Maduro and his counterpart Xi Jinping. It is the second highest level granted by Beijing to its comprehensive ties with other countries. The unique methods implemented by the program to train musicians of the National System of Youth and the Children's Orchestras and Choirs of Venezuela have made it a global success. Let's see for details.
The National System of Youth and Children's Orchestras and Choirs of Venezuela is a social and cultural program of the Venezuelan state, which has turned into a global reference for its method that combines musical training with collective values that allow the training cycle to be infinite.
It seeks the social reintegration of children and youngsters through music and has created a structure across the country to serve over 1 million children.
This system has further reached countries such as China, where a core of the symphony orchestra operates and with which cultural exchanges are constant. In addition, the Venezuela Symphony Orchestra is a permanent social guest in Beijing and other regions of China, where musicians have been able to exchange experiences in a perfect musical language.
Last year I had the opportunity to be there again with the Simón Bolívar Symphony Orchestra of Venezuela. But this time I went as an assistant conductor. I was not conducting, but I was an assistant conductor. And I could see how the city changed, how the city evolved in some things, and in others it kept its essence. How there is a huge interest in the arts, in being able to continue learning, in that sharing. It was really wonderful. It was also very nice to see many young people at the concerts, both in Beijing and Shanghai, because that speaks very well that the youth is avid for art, avid for music, and wants to keep playing, wants to keep singing, regardless of where we are. The fact of being able to send these messages of the program and what we do here daily in Venezuela to any country, especially China, is really amazing.
The lives of those who are part of the program are changed in a positive way, and even those who pass through this school and become professionals in other areas are grateful to have been part of this cultural history that unites the peoples worldwide through the universal language, music.
Something very enticing and something that people don't know about the program is that most of its personnel, most of those almost over 10,000 workers that we have at the national level, were also part of it. They started in a nucleus or in a module, and then today they are either as teachers or they are in different administrative areas. We have, for example, our doctors. Many of our medical service doctors are musicians, also our engineers, the administrators, the directors of the nuclei, the managers in all areas. That is something wonderful, and it is very nice to see how all these people who are at the national level are every day, as Maestro Abreu taught us, playing, singing, and fighting so that we can be better every day.
The National System of Youth and Children's Orchestras and Choirs of Venezuela was founded in 1975 by the Venezuelan maestro and musician José Antonio Abreu, who designed a method to systematize the instruction and collective and individual practice of music through symphony orchestras and choirs as instruments of social organization and humanistic development.
That motivation that comes from participating in a concert, participating in a presentation where you are applauded and your self-esteem is fueled, it is something so important for a child, for a young person, and that is what the program has been doing somehow.
This pedagogical, artistic, and social model, which has gained global relevance, is the social responsibility program with the greatest impact in the history of Venezuela.
We have a fast short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin American and Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Fast short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Honduras, President Xiomara Castro, in a ceremony to commemorate 15 years of resistance, strongly condemned the coup attack against former President Manuel Zelaya that established the dictatorship in the nation. During her participation in the event, the President thanked the 16 progressive leaders for their support in the activity and emphasized the need to continue the struggle against imperialism through the social revolution. The Honduran President also emphasized that an organized people in resistance is an invincible weapon against any threat or attempted attack against national sovereignty. She also recalled that on this important day, the sacrifice of martyred men and women who fought in the streets against the coup must be acknowledged.
Today, we commemorate 15 years of the infamous coup attack, of the support of hundreds of thousands of men and women who fought in the streets for the return of democracy and the defeat of the coup. We honor the blood of our martyrs.
Moreover, the National Executive condemned the imperialist blockade against Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. He expressed as well its solidarity with its Venezuelan counterpart Nicolás Maduro for the presidential elections on July 28th.
I condemn the genocide against the Palestinian people. I condemn the 60 years of blockade to the people of Cuba. The blockade to the brother people of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and Nicaragua. I thank the message of support from President Nicolás Maduro. Nicolás, you accompanied us in the front line with Commander Chavez to fight against the coup d'etat. Here, we are today victorious, reverting the coup d'etat. Nicolás, the soldiers of Morazán accompany you in the next election. We were sure that you will obtain the triumph and the best results.
The United Nations warned again about the high risk of famine that threatens the entire population in the Gaza Strip due to Israeli attacks. The Office for Food and Agriculture warned about the seriousness of the humanitarian crisis in the territory of the Gaza Strip. According to the most recent report, more than a quarter of the Palestinian population in the region is facing a situation of catastrophe and food insecurity due to the destruction of infrastructure and land for livestock farming. The UN estimates that the crisis will continue to escalate as long as the Israeli incursions and bombardments continue to prevent the entry of humanitarian aid. In this sense, the Office for Women's Affairs of the United Nations alerted that there are 557,000 women in Gaza suffering from food insecurity. A study in the area has determined that many mothers and adult women give priority to feeding other people, such as children, the elderly, or pregnant women. Many skip meals or reduce them specially to ensure their children's intake. In this context, more than 80% of women in Gaza currently depend on food aid. In Pakistan, the National Assembly has rejected the United States House of Representatives resolution regarding democratic processes in Pakistan. The Pakistani Congress issued a counter-resolution urging Washington to focus on pressing global issues like ending the genocide in Gaza rather than interfering in the international affairs of other countries. The Pakistani parliament said the resolution issued by the U.S. shows ignorance and disregard for the political and electoral processes in Pakistan. Although the Pakistani National Assembly acknowledges the White House as an important partner, it reaffirmed Pakistan's independent and sovereign status and its commitment to bilateral relations based on mutual respect. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.